What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor South Africa Season 8, Immunity Island, Episode 10. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and this is the first episode of Immunity Island, I think, where we haven't actually seen Immunity Island. So that's fun and funky fresh.
Which,
So,
honestly, it's a good thing there was no Immunity Island because you would have so many people safe this episode because of the pairs twist. And so it was interesting because, like 2 weeks ago, Alyssa, from the preview, we thought that the pairs twist was happening last week, but then it just turned out, oh, it was the reward challenge and they split into pairs. But no, the pairs twist was actually a thing. I thought it was just a fake out, but no, we just foreshadowed the future and the pairs twist actually happened. So basically, with the pairs twist, you are connected with another player. The pairings were Warda and Tyson, Anella and Kieran. No, Anesu and Kieran, Chappies and Santoni, Anella and Nicole, and Amy and Rainier. And it just split on tribal lines.
yeah, I feel like this twist was unfortunate because I feel like everyone kind of got screwed over because if you had, um, I guess, if you had gotten partnered with someone in the opposite alliance, that would be much better for you because then you almost certainly aren't going home because neither alliance is going to want to vote for you. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just this twist could have been so interesting and it wasn't really, and I'm kind of bummed about that.
I agree. I feel like I'm meh on the twist. It reminds me of Sequester, Alyssa, when we like did the Sequester review, and one of the rounds twist is usually this kind of pairings thing when you're like connected to someone else and then whatever happens to them happens to you, so if you're voted out they're voted out kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's literally a sequester twist. So it just, I don't know, it sort of felt very random and you can't really control a lot of it after the pairings happen, which it does, I don't know, I felt like it leaves a lot up to luck, which I'm not sure if I like or not.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where Survivor as a game, you expect there to be some element of luck to it, but I feel like this was kind of just too out of the ordinary. Like, there's no way that anyone could have planned for this, and then also just like too random. Where since they were drawing rocks, it was like we said, just utterly random.
And that's like the bad thing about sequester when we were talking about it, how if you like things that are set in stone, if you like rules to be followed and rules set out, then like the sequester twist, this is very random, not a set list of rules kind of thing. And like you were saying, I do think it could have been an interesting twist if the pairings were split across tribal lines. So basically the 1% chance we got this episode where every single pairing was someone that they're in a hardcore alliance with, it could have been so fascinating. Like, oh, do we vote out someone who we like but we really hate their partner, or do we have to sacrifice one of our own to get rid of someone? So I think that could have been so interesting, but I would not want to participate in a twist like this.
Yeah, and I feel bad for them because it's just I especially feel bad for Amy who ended up going home because her partner was voted off because it's kind of like she had no control over that. It felt like, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's no situation where this twist would have made me feel good about the outcome because like even if two people that I didn't like went home, I would still feel kind of like dirty about it because it happened in such a weird way, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think on the other hand, you could say, oh, if you're a good Survivor player, you should be able to navigate this twist. You know, Survivor is a lot of luck. And if you are a good player, you should be able to navigate anything that is thrown at you. But I do think, like, in certain circumstances, it doesn't really matter who your partner is, but you get screwed over by who your partner is. Like, for example, say you were partnered with the person that's the most hated on the island and they've like done bad things, they're really rude, nobody likes them, and they've been trying to vote that person out but they didn't have an idol or something, or like they've had safety for a lot, or like they're the challenge beast, and now this is the first time that they didn't win a challenge, and so this is the first time that they're not immune at tribal. And so if you're partnered with that kind of person, how do you save yourself when the person that you're partnered with is so disliked or so threatening to people that they need to vote them out now when they have the chance?
Yeah, I just feel like it's one of those things where there's no way to like mitigate it at all. Like, it would have been cool if there was an opportunity to switch partners or do something so it wasn't just dumb luck, but in the end it was dumb luck, and I didn't like that.
Oh, I like the switch partner thing. That would be so interesting. And maybe you have to give up something, like you get a not reward. If you stay, maybe you get some kind of advantage, but if you switch, maybe you get a disadvantage or something against you because you switched and you went against the survivor gods. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would have preferred just 2 back-to-back tribal councils if they wanted to do a double elimination this episode. But also, I feel like watching Survivor Australia, they have so many random twists over there that I feel like I've just become numb to these twists. So it honestly didn't faze me. But 2 back-to-back tribals would have gotten you similar results, but the people could have actually strategized and tried to maybe save themselves more.
Exactly. Or like you split up into pairs and then the pairs are at separate tribal councils or something like that. Like, there are ways that could have done this if you still really wanted the pair idea. There's ways you could have done the pair idea without like binding people together so that someone might go home who doesn't really deserve to go home.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, if this twist keeps on coming up in Survivor South Africa, or if we see it in like a US version or something like that, and seeing different iterations of how this twist can play out, because obviously there's so many different pairings of these people. Like, we just got the super unlucky pairing where everyone is with an alliance member already, but if it were all mixed up and every single person was paired with a opposite alliance member, I think it could have been super fascinating and maybe more equitable of who goes home, maybe, because this, in theory, I think this twist, it would have been an end to a pagonging. So you have this twist, and in theory, everyone should get paired with an opposite alliance member. So then you stop the pagonging. You're not going to keep the pagonging going because everyone is with someone from a different alliance, causing people to work across the tribal lines. But the way with it that it split this episode, you basically had to stick with your OG tribal lines because it didn't make sense to flip. So it ended up being a pagonging speeder upper, which I guess is fine since it saved us 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's like hard for it to be a pagong speeder upper because then the people on the bottom don't even really have room to maneuver. It's like maybe if Rainier had gone out the first tribal, then Amy could have done something to maneuver herself into a better position in the second tribal or something like that. So
yeah, in theory, it should have been a pagonging stopper. In reality, the way that it split, it became a pagonging speeder upper. But yeah, I don't know, like, to have these tribal lines and to have the people paired with someone in their alliance, it wouldn't make sense to vote out Tyson and Warda, who was the main target for the minority alliance, because then, like people said, it would be a 4-4 next week. And even if, like we saw, Rainier and Amy were promising Anesu and Chappie's the world, we'll be aligned with you. We bow down to you because you saved us. We will owe you our lives if you save us. Like, it is safer to go with your OG people, and then you flip next week when there's only 2 of the other minority OG people left.
yeah, like it could have even been a more fun twist if it had happened at a different time. Like if it had happened next week and it was 6-3, so you could vote out 2 of your own alliance members and still end up with the majority, that would have been more interesting. But I guess that would have been a bit late to wait for a double tribal, but
yeah, it's interesting because, right, this is the final 10. We go to the final 8 at the end of this episode. And, playbook how the final 10, 9, 8, 7 goes every season. Final 10 would be a little bit too early to flip on your alliance and go with the Rainier and Amy crew, because you're going to flip into a 4. You're going to be the bottom 5-6 of that 4. You're already the 5-6 of your OG alliance, so it doesn't really make sense to flip. But Final 8 is like the perfect time, and that's how like we hear so many Survivor players say, like, you know, we have to wait, but also you can't wait too long that you don't have the numbers to still flip, to still make something happen. And it does seem like next week the game is going to be more open. Nicole and Smash probably aren't on the chopping block, but it's going to be the Warda, Tyson, Kieran threesome against the Anesu, Chappie, Santoni threesome, and it's whoever can bring in Nicole and Smash next week. And I feel like we've seen that play out so many times in Survivor, where once you whittle down the minority alliance to like 1, 2, or 3 players, then the majority cracks.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way it always has to be, because it's like in the majority, somebody is going to be 6 out of 6, and they have to realize it before it gets to that point. Otherwise, you end up with something like Ghost Island, where it's very clear who like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to be. So, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe 10 is too early to do this twist, like you were saying. I think that's a really interesting argument, but I would argue, yeah, 8 would be too late. So it's like, do you do this at 12 at the start of the merge? That might be too soon. So it's like, where do you put this twist?
Start of the merge would be interesting if there were like 3 distinct alliances, because then I feel like there would be more politicking that has to go on. So, like, maybe if they started with 3 tribes and kept those same 3 tribes the whole time, that would be a way to make it more interesting, or at least more viable. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is an interesting twist. I personally would not want to participate if I were ever out there. Like, keep it far away from that season. But it's interesting to see other people do it. So, I mean, I would be interested to see it again, but I do think maybe some things need to change, or it's just maybe dumb luck that the pairings happen this way.
Yeah, this to me feels a lot like fire tokens, where like it's a really interesting premise, but I feel like it needs to be tweaked in order to actually be usable.
Yeah, so maybe what, 5 out of 10?
Sure, maybe 4 out of 10. I feel like 5 is generous.
Yeah, so going into the immunity challenge, it is a stand and balance challenge where you don't want your like clay vase to fall and break. And Nico announces that nobody would be sent to Immunity Island, which is honestly good, because say Nicole wins and then she is able to send Amy and Rainier to Immunity Island, they get safety, which maybe honestly would have made the episode more interesting, because then you couldn't have just picked them off and then the other people would have to vote someone of their own out, which could have been more interesting.
Yeah, I just think with Immunity Island, since everything is done in doubles, that would mean 2 people or possibly 4 people would be immune out of 8 people total, 10 people total. I can't do math. But it's like you would just have way too many people immune, especially because immunity idols count double. So it's like if you had one partnership that was immune because of their own immunity challenge win, one partnership that was immune because of Immunity Island, and then one partnership that was immune because they played a hidden immunity idol, then there would only be 2 partners to vote between, and that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, you potentially only have 4 people or 6 people left up to be eliminated, which is good that they got rid of the immunity island this week. So it's a good thing that they like thought ahead. Otherwise, there would be like literally no one to vote out, and that would be maybe even more unfair than Amy and Rainier getting voted out in a double elimination connected together this week. And this challenge, it was interesting. The wind, why was it so strong? It literally blew people off of the post.
That seemed really unfair to me. Like, just the level of unpredictability. Like, that's where, like, having the specific seesaw that was not in the path of the wind really helps. So, I don't know. I know they draw for spots, so it's not like production could have rigged it, but yeah.
Yeah, the wind pushed people off of their posts, literally. So, really good for Amy and Nicole. They lasted such a long time, an hour and a half versus other people not lasting that long. Gotta hurt your legs, really. So, we know that Nicole is really good at balance when she won that margarita reward. I was surprised that Anesu and Kieran didn't last so long, although I think the wind blew them off. So, maybe it's not really their lack of balance on one leg.
Yeah, I feel like it was one of those things where I'm not really sure. Like, obviously, the girls who lasted that long were good balancers, but I feel like people who didn't last as long, it's not necessarily because they did poorly. So, yeah.
Yeah, so down to Amy and Nicole, literally life and death for whoever drops and whoever wins. Like it is whoever loses and doesn't win immunity for their pair is going home tonight, basically. So Nicole wins, Amy is in second place. I feel like with this episode, Nicole winning this immunity challenge was the catalyst for Amy and Rainier to go home 100%. It started that chain of bad reactions for them. And say you're Nicole, Amy, Rainier, and Smash, you're in the minority, you're all paired together. You low key wouldn't want your other pair person to win. Like if you're Amy, you don't really want Nicole to win this because looking at the numbers, then it just leaves you and your partner up for elimination, which you sort of want to root against your other alliance pair because you want all four of you up for elimination. Because say Nicole and Smash were up for elimination and Rainier and Amy were, then you could have thrown the votes onto Nicole and Smash and tried to get them voted out to save yourself.
The thing is, I feel like Nicole winning wasn't necessarily the nail in the coffin. I feel like the worst part was that she won and then brought Amy and Rainier with them on the reward challenge because it's like that basically hamstrung, whatever the past tense of the verb to hamstring is, Amy and Rainier because they didn't get to talk to anyone else. Like there was no political move that they could make basically because they were stuck on reward or like stuck on reward, however you want to phrase it, you know? And so I feel like it's just one of those things where it would have been better for them if Nicole hadn't won, obviously, but it also would have been better for them if Nicole had been thinking. Because I feel like we heard like 3 separate people say, like, oh, it was a bad choice for Nicole to bring them with her on this reward because that was, I feel like, the catalyst for everything bad that happened.
No, yeah, that's why I'm saying like Nicole winning is the catalyst because then that leads to her poor decision, which then leads to Amy and Rainier not able to chat with anyone. And I agree when Nicole says, yeah, I'm picking Amy and Rainier because Amy lasted so long. I was like, huh? Like, really? Is she actually going to pick them? I think Survivor 101, you would not pick those two people, especially when they're the only people up for elimination and probably the easy boot to go this time. And so, yeah, like you were saying, we saw multiple confessionals saying it was a bad move too. And I was like, yeah, we're on the same wavelength, us and them, because you literally alienated your foursome and you're letting 6 people go back to camp and chat freely. No one is around. None of your people are spies or in their ear. 6 over 4 going on reward. 6 is the majority. Like you should not have brought Amy and Rainier to reward.
Yeah, and I guess it's like if you think that it's inevitable that they're going to go home anyway, then at least they got to go on a nice reward before they go home. But even then, that's kind of like, how do you know there isn't an idol hidden back at camp that they could find or something like that? So
yeah, like it's a 1 million rand water park adventure because I think they were saying in like exit interviews that Nicole doesn't really know the game, so she was just picking Amy and Rainier because they're friends and they wanted to do this thing together. So it's a Nicole fumble there for not thinking strategically in that moment and thinking, oh yeah, we need to split up. Us two, me and Smash, we're going to go and we pick 2 people, maybe like Anesu and Kieran as the partnership because Anesu's maybe wanting to flip. And then you send Amy and Rainier back to camp to go work some magic on the beach with the other people. Maybe you can flip Chappies, maybe you can flip Santoni while you're there, or at least if you split up, you can stifle conversation, because if you sent your 2 people back to camp, the 4 other people, even if they're all aligned and maybe not flipping, they still wouldn't able to like talk so openly. They wouldn't have been able to go look for idols so openly, because your people were at least there to watch them. So I think like Nicole winning, Nicole choosing to take them, it's like a pow pow, double bad.
Yeah, I feel bad because it's like Nicole obviously did it with good intentions, but like you said, she didn't seem to really know the game. And I feel like sometimes it's worse not to know the game than to play the game badly. So,
a big fumble of the bag here. And this was such an odd reward, like a water park adventure theme park. It was so weird, but so funny. I'm like, you are starving, you're playing this game, you would no way want to go to a water park. Like, you have to walk up millions of flights of stairs to even get to the ride for a 30-second water down. Like, it's fun when you're fully fed, you know, a summer thing or like indoor water parks, but I'm like, I don't know, going here when you're starving and having to walk up all those steps to go down the ride doesn't look like fun.
yeah, I feel like after going to the water park in the summer, I'm like exhausted. I want to go home and nap all day. So I can't imagine it would be like something where you went back and like felt reinvigorated. You would just be tired.
Yeah, and everyone just looked cold. They were doing their confessionals in their down jackets and heavy jackets, and then you're in the water park in swimsuits being forced to go down these rides while being filmed. It was just really funny. But they got to shower, which was also very odd because they had like club music in the background, slow-mo, up close shots of Amy and Nicole showering. It was just weird and inappropriate.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. We choose not to think about that part. Just
It was just so odd. Like, they could have done a water park slide montage, but no, they did a montage of showering with club music in the back. It's just, this isn't Love Island. Like, what are we watching?
yeah.
So, yeah, speaking of the water parks, I do wonder, okay, like if you were on the mat and Nicole is like, best friends, you're coming with me to the water park, could you stand there and be like, Nico, no, I hate water parks. I hate roller coasters. I have a fear of heights. I will vomit if I see water. I don't know how to swim. Can you say that to Nico and then be like, Nicole, can you pick someone else? I really don't want to go. Like, I'm sick. I hate roller coasters, water parks. I don't want to go. And then Nico is like, Nicole, okay, you can pick someone else. Can you say no to going on reward? Because then I feel like Amy and Rainier maybe should have said no or stepped up and been like, oh, I'm feeling sick. I don't want to go. And even Amy in her TNO exit interview, she said she hates water parks. So she could have made up an excuse like that to be like, Nicole, don't pick me. I hate water. I'm sick. Like, pick someone else.
Yeah, I wonder though, because I feel like then Nicole might have like pushed back against it. So
Because, yeah, Rainier in the exit interview too was thinking maybe he should have fake fought with Nicole or like wrote her off. Like, Nicole, I hate you. We are not in an alliance anymore, and made a big scene here. So then they wouldn't go on the water park reward together, because like people give up their rewards, you know? So I feel like you could say no to going on a reward. Like, you're not forced to say yes. So I do wonder if something like that happens. I feel like in the moment, you probably are like, oh no. And then after the fact, you're like, oh crap, this is not the good move to do. We need to be back at camp. So maybe in the moment you're not thinking, but I do wonder if you were thinking that in the moment, fake it and be like, Nico, can't go, sick, hate water.
yeah, that would have been good, but I also don't think it would have worked in the long term. Because then if you go back to camp and you act like not sick, then people are going to know that you just faked sick so that you could like be there, you know?
Yeah, even not faking sick, even just the easy excuse of Amy saying, I hate water parks, you know? Traumatic experience out of water park kind of thing. Like, they can't prove that, but also, like, they can't really hold it against you. You're like, I get motion sickness from roller coasters. I can't go on these rides. Like, I think someone else, like, oh, Tyson, I think you would like going on water rides kind of thing. Like, I wouldn't enjoy it, so I want to give it to someone else kind of thing. Framing it like that, like, oh, I'm the holy person, I wouldn't enjoy it. So, oh, someone else, you can have it. Like, yay.
Yeah, I guess that could have worked, maybe. But too little, too late, I guess.
I know. I just wanted someone to say that because I think that would be a great thing to say
When
to
you
get
go
out
on
of
Survivor,
going.
you can do that. That can be your secret Survivor strategy.
Yeah. Although, like we were saying, I think if you stood up and stopped everything and you just didn't go with it, it might put more targets on your back because people would be looking at you. So, could be a double edged sword, but I think it would have been interesting to see if someone thought of it or if someone were to do it and like what would happen because it hasn't really been done before.
Yeah, but maybe next season we'll see it.
Yeah, with another twist and they make this move again. So we go into the egg debacle, which I thought was sort of funny, where the people that went back to camp, they found eggs while idol hunting, but they were about to cook the eggs and eat them when the people that went on reward came back. And so the people at camp, they didn't want to share it, which I thought was funny. And I was like, yeah, you know, if you didn't get to go eat the biscuits and ice cream and whatnot, you wouldn't want to share it either.
I think it's funny though, because like eggs are more like nutritionally valuable than like ice cream or whatever. But I just thought this was dumb. Also, because maybe this is just a me thing, but eggs that have been sitting out in the jungle for God knows how long, like I wouldn't necessarily want to eat those. They haven't been pasteurized. You might get salmonella and die.
So then you can say you were sick and you can't go to the water park.
Obviously.
It was funny, yeah. Smash really wanting some eggs as well. So maybe, yeah, he said he wasn't really full from the ice cream that they ate at the water park. And honestly, walking up all those stairs at the water park probably canceled out the amount of calories that they got for eating their ice cream and stuff after because there's so many steps to even get to the rides at those parks.
God. Yeah, they need like escalators or something.
Yeah, maybe like 10 minutes to walk up like 20 stairs or something to get there. But alas, we go into tribal council where we see Rainier maybe do a Hail Mary. He gets mad and starts to fight with people. So he basically turns to Kieran and Anesu, who are sitting next to Rainier and Amy, and is like, Kieran, that we're going to vote for you. I'm playing an idol, so if you don't vote with us, you're getting voted out. Work with me right now, and we'll vote out Chappie so you don't get voted out, which I guess I was sort of confused by because picking Kieran doesn't really make any sense. Maybe it's because they were sitting next to each other, so it was like the Hail Mary thing, turn to anyone and try to cause confusion or chaos. But like, Kieran is partnered with Anesu, and Anesu was maybe potentially working with them low-key or wanting to flip and maybe wanting to work with them in the future. And we saw Kieran and Rainier on the beach talking. They seem to have a fine relationship. So isn't picking Kieran, throwing him under the bus, saying you're going to vote for him or else giving him the ultimatum, like ruining that relationship?
I just feel like it's one of those things where it never was going to work anyway, because if you say you're going to play an idol and then you're not willing to show the idol, of course people aren't going to believe you. Like, I don't know. I felt bad because that seemed to do more to make people like want to vote for Rainier than anything else did, you know?
I agree. I thought it was maybe too late to bluff that you have an idol because I feel like maybe if you did it back at camp, things would have stirred and maybe people would have talked or been scared or flipped. But yeah, like you were saying, if you're just showing this bag at tribal, it's pretty much obviously a fake or a bluff because if you did have something, you wouldn't be afraid to show it. And we've seen time and time again at tribal where people who are on the bottom, they pull out their idol early and they're like, sucks for y'all, you have to vote for someone else. And then everyone is shocked, or they bring up the idol back at camp and flaunt it around. So it's like, oh, you have to vote for someone else. So I agree, not showing something is going to cause people to think that you're faking it. And even the bag that Rainier pulled out, it was so limp. Like he put a twig in there. I feel like maybe you should have made a fake idol to show, so at least you have some strings and jewelry to show, but the bag was so small and so limp, like nothing was in there. Or maybe put a bigger rock in there to make it look thick.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of those times where, like, if you're Amy, do you just tell Rainier to shut up? Because I felt like Rainier wasn't really playing with the fact that he was partnered to someone else in mind. Like, he was definitely playing Rainier's game and kind of ignoring that if he went down, he was dragging Amy with him.
Rainier has had such a weird post-merge edit, I feel like, because pre-merge we were, oh, he's such a good social player, he's like the number one person that's going to win this game, to then after the merge he's gotten less screen time, he's blowing up at people on tribal, and like we haven't really seen him since the merge hits, which is weird how like 180 he went from being the person to win this game to being less talked about, more invisible, and then blowing up at this final tribal that he's at.
Yeah, it just seemed very strange. So, I mean, obviously, his winner edit wasn't that good because he didn't win. So, maybe that was it. Like, they didn't want us to feel like totally blindsided by the fact that he was not the winner. So, they just decided to make him fall off the map.
I guess a fake out edit, which I feel bad for Amy too, because like you were saying, I think she could have survived. It was if it were like a double elimination back-to-back tribal, no pairs kind of thing, because I do think like Amy and Rainier are both capable social strategic players that they could have gotten the vote maybe flipped or maybe onto someone like Nicole or Smash to vote someone like anyone but me. Like you'd rather, even if they are your alliance member, you'd rather someone else go home than yourself, so you're still in the game to win. And like Amy and Santoni had some kind of relationship. It looked like halfway through the episode, maybe it blew up a little bit because of like things that were happening. But like we saw Santoni saying, oh, I don't really want to vote out Amy, but I sort of have to because she's partnered with Rainier. So it does seem like Amy was more collateral damage and Rainier was like, oh, we're voting him out. And Rainier and Amy were the only two people to go because Smash and Nicole were safe.
Yeah. It just frustrates me because of like the way it just spiraled down, but I guess you can't really change it now. So
yeah, and like as long as we don't think about it too much, I'm totally fine with it. But once you start to like actually think about it and you're like, oh, this is sort of crappy, but I liked how Kieran in the tribal council, he stood up for himself, and I feel like that's the most we've seen him talk. But I really liked how he fought and he like wasn't going to just stand down to Rainier, but he was like, yo, Rainier, what the heck are you talking about? Like, show me this idol or else.
yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where maybe Rainier didn't expect people to call him on his bluff, but he should have because it was kind of a bad bluff.
Yeah, the limp bag. Should have put a rock in there or something.
Yeah, but so Rainier and Amy end up going home, which puts the tribal lines now at 6-2, and I guess next week we've made it pretty obvious what we think is going to happen, which is that the group of 6 is going to fracture, and then whoever gets Nicole and whoever Nicole was with.
Smash.
I was like, why can't I remember? Names just evaporated from my brain. But whoever gets Nicole and Smash is going to be in the top 5, and then the final 3 will be 3 of those people of that 5, and it depends on who plays the best, I guess, and who wins the immunities. So
yeah, and I think for Survivor South Africa they go to final 2, so it makes it even more and no American Fire Challenge at the final 4, hopefully. Yeah. But I think it'll be interesting. I feel like low key for like game players, it would have been more interesting if Rainier and Amy had stayed and Nicole and Smash had gone. It does seem like Smash is playing the game and is smart, but it does seem like maybe Nicole could end up being like a final tribal council GOAT, which is sort of bad if there's only 2 spots because you have to vote those people out. Otherwise, with 2 seats at the end, you're letting people who haven't played the game as much get there versus other people who have played the game much harder get voted out because you kept those people in.
And I think that's kind of why US Survivor moved to Final 3, and then now kind of why they're moving to like have a fire challenge at Final 4, because like the big threat always gets voted out at 4 now that is a Final 3, etc., etc. And I feel like it's one of those things where you have to stop it at some point, otherwise it's going to be like, oh, in Final 8, everyone gets an immunity idol or something like that, you know? So.
Which is interesting because now in US Survivor, I guess this is a tangent, but US Survivor, it's like even with the final 3, you have one GOAT person in the final 3. It's always down to like 2 contenders in that final 3, which then it's like maybe final 2 helps it more, but yeah, I don't know. You just got to find those people.
You can also end up with like Jean and Tom, or Jean, I forget how she said her name. I know how it was spelled. But anyway, where like both of the options kind of suck because they voted out the person who would actually win.
Oh my gosh, it's going to cause some problems because people didn't like that we didn't like Tom.
Well, that's news to me. But I guess it's just one of those things where it's interesting to see kind of the same tropes play out in Survivor. I hope that something interesting happens because I feel like sometimes if you've seen one Survivor season, you've seen them all, which is why I appreciate the ones that are like interesting and good. And so far, this one has not been like stand out enough where I'm like, yes, I am glad I have spent the last 10 weeks of my life devoting time to this. So.
Oh my gosh, Alyssa, you have to watch Australian Survivor because you will not regret it. After this, we'll talk, but it's just so wild.
Yeah, so good times.
Yeah, so this was our recap for episode 10. I'm excited for next week because we'll definitely probably have a split of the majority alliance. And honestly, pretty much everyone left in the game still has a good resume. They have things that they can talk about, obviously some more than others, but I think we have a really good final 8 that's like really interesting, and you still have some like wild card people in there with like Santoni and Chappies doing some weird stuff every week.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good mix of people where it's like one person is not the person where I'm like, oh, they're definitely going to be the winner. I feel like there's several good winner contenders and then some interesting characters. I wish we had more on the character side, but you know what? Beggars can't be choosers. I'm excited to see what happens next week. I hope that the big 6 fractures, otherwise it'll be kind of boring.
I think it has to. There is no way you willingly go into the 6 if you're at the bottom of that 6. Like, but maybe though, we've seen it happen before, so it could happen. But I do feel like these people are smart enough to figure out now is the time to pull in those bottom numbers and flip to make a majority.
Yeah, I hope so. So let us know what you thought of this episode down in the comments down below. What do you think of the twist? Do you think that it could be used again with some tweaking, or is it just bad? Do you think that it's good the way it is? We always love to hear from you, and we will see you guys next week with a new podcast.